IV hydration and therapy is exploding as an industry, with clinics promising to treat hangovers, vitamin deficiencies, and much more. But our national investigative team discovered regulations aren't keeping up, with critics concerned unlicensed and unsupervised providers might put customers at risk. Josh Sturman digs into the drip.
Look on the internet and you'll find a virtually endless menu with options to solve any health problem you're dealing with. We found the outrageous and the ordinary, with treatments advertising help for everything from Alzheimer's and Crohn's to cancer, Parkinson's, and the common cold. Websites claiming they've got it in the bag at IV clinics and med spas that are popping up across the country.
I think the problem is that it's become so prevalent that consumers make the assumption, well, surely if it's all out here, then it must be okay.
As the president of the Texas Medical Board, Dr. Sharif Zafran knows otherwise.
Because the way it is right now, it really is kind of a free-for-all.
And our national investigative team discovered it's operating in a medical gray area.
So the main worry is actually who is staffing them, who is deciding what kind of hydration therapy is being given. It became really something that we took even more seriously when we had a death that happened.
It was a hit to the community.
Felt like a ripple effect.
It really was. It was like throwing a big rock in a pond.
Jennifer Cleveland worked for radio station owner Buzz Russell doing sales. In July 2023, Jennifer visited a client, Lux Med Spa. Records from the Texas Medical Board show she got a fairly common IV infusion from the owner, whose attorney says she was a phlebotomist, the kind of medical professional who draws blood. Board records say the IV Jennifer was given contained vitamins and a dangerous mix of prescription electrolytes known to cause complications. Within 2 hours, she was dead from a sudden cardiac arrest.
In these situations where you literally have someone's life in your hands, there has to be a procedure.
But there were many missteps, according to the Texas Medical Board, which found there were no medically licensed or experienced staff at the med spa the day Jennifer died. The medical director was an anesthesiologist more than 100 miles away. The board said he failed to properly supervise the unlicensed owner.
These things are coming up faster than the states have been able to come up with laws to address them specifically.
In just the last 3 years, we found medical, nursing, or pharmacy boards in at least 8 states have issued specific position statements about IV treatments.
I think they help quite a bit. I think it empowers us as physicians and as practitioners to say, okay, we see what you need and what you want. We will build around that.
Dr. Chris Seitz sits on the scientific advisory board of the American IV Association, a group created by the industry. Just weeks ago, it released a framework to raise industry standards with the goal of protecting patients.
Done the right way is very safe. Not done the right way, there are risks.
Risks that may get blurred in a social media world where IV clinics pop up in your feed as casual beach setups and cheeky after-party pics. But no matter where the drip happens, Seitz and the IV Association say there have to be clear protocols in place, licensed providers, and actual medical evaluations done before treatment.
We believe as a scientific committee that there needs to be a patient-provider relationship established.
But not everyone is operating to his standards. We found doctors across the nation disciplined for failures related to remote oversight of IV clinics, including the doctor medically directing the IV clinic that injected Jennifer Cleveland. His license was initially suspended, then restricted.
There has to be accountability in this because we're talking about people's lives.
Our team repeatedly contacted the doctor overseeing the clinic involved in Jen Cleveland's death, but got no response. His license remains restricted. The case is now being investigated by the Texas Attorney General. The med spa's attorney says there is no criminal liability that should be attributed to the owner, with no proof the IV treatment is responsible for her death.